Let's go back to our code. What we had looked at was this method, getFrameworkForException, the reason being that we were running into an error on line 30. So now that we understand what's going on here, we can take a look at our actual test. Now our tests start with the word test, and then we can put anything after that. Any method that begins with test will get run as a test. So the first step of this test is grabbing our framework. So we do this getFrameworkForException, which is what this method was right here. Next, we grab a response. We use our handle method inside of framework. Now, if we pass it an empty request, we should get a 404 page because we're not actually creating from globals and we're not passing any of those variables to our request object. And so next, we're going to run the actual test, and that's what this line is here. This assert equals, and we're going to check if 404 equals the getStatus code from our response object, which at this point it is. Now this whole structure right here is built around supporting this single line, which is the actual test. Now this is within a method, but this method can actually contain multiple tests. If we copy this line and paste it in multiple times, each one of those lines will run as a test. In general, it makes sense to wrap methods around single tests so that you understand exactly what's being tested. But sometimes you'll have multiple tests within a single method, and it will actually make sense. So this assert equals method belongs inside of PHP-Unit framework test case. We're extending from that in order to create our framework test class here. This is just one of the tests that we can run. We can take a look at the full list of tests by going to phpunit.de/manual/3.7/en writing tests for phpunit.html. Or you can just do a search for phpunit assert equals. Now here is the list of assertions that you can use for a test. So you can assert count to make sure that there's a certain number of items inside of an array or an object. You can assert empty to make sure that a variable is empty, assert false, assert file exists, and so on. Getting a sense of what you can test here through these assertions is really valuable.